Hey guys, this is your fiery friend the Infernoman here, and if you're into games, you're right where you need to be. But before we get into it, if you like the content that I put out there, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit me up with a like, or even better, subscribe to me. It really shows that people do care about my content. Now, if you have questions, comments, stuff you'd like to see played or discussed, you can @me on Twitter or chat directly with me as I stream 2 to 3 times a week on Twitch. A visual link for those are up on the screen right now, and I will have direct links in the details below. And for today's deck tech, we're going to be doing Guildgates 4-color in 2021. I know somebody out there is kind of raising their eyebrow. We'll slow your roll. Hold the phone for just a moment here, guys. Hear me out. All right. There are some cards that have come out in the past year that I do think can help justify this deck and make it still, at least if nothing else, a fun meme deck to play. And the good news is I've managed to make this deck work without using any rares or mythics. So that's the main reason why I'm putting it out there for you guys. Now, before we get started, as always, here's how we're going to break this down. First off, we're going to cover the creatures in the deck, then we will cover the non-creature spells, the land base if applicable, and trust me, this time it actually will apply. We'll have a match with Sparky to give you an idea of what the deck is trying to do, of course, talk about the sideboard, and again, if you are trying to find a way to upgrade this deck, we'll show you at the very end some practical upgrades for it. And with that, let's go ahead, let's get started. So, beginning with the creature package, real quick, it is only 10 creatures. That's it. Gatebreaker Ram will get bigger with each gate you control, and as long as you control 2 or more gates, the Ram will have Vigilance and Trample. This is your main beatdown, and trust me, it will help you as the game gets on. Archway Angel is mostly here just to stabilize your life. When you do have every gate out, it will gain you 2 additional life. Normally, I would have this on the side, but because of the current meta right now, I think having at least 2 copies in the main deck will actually make it a lot more easier for you to handle the first match. And of course, the Gate Colossus. The Gate Colossus will get cheaper with every gate you do put out there, and it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so this thing can start smashing in pretty quick. Considering if you can put out a gate every single turn, in theory, you should be able to actually put this Gate Colossus out by as soon as maybe turn 5. It really depends on how your mana base is looking. And also the other sweet thing about this is, even if this thing gets blown up and goes to your graveyard, as long as you can put another gate back on the battlefield, you can then put this back on the top of your deck and then recast it later on. So this card has a hard time being eliminated. But that's it for creatures. All right, now let's actually get to the real fun of the deck. As far as your non-creature spell package is concerned, you're going to have 23 cards to work with, and they all have a very specific purpose. So let's break this down. Glaive of the Guild Pack. 1 copy of this is going to be actually really interesting to have. As you can see reading it, equipped creature will get +1/+0 for each gate you control. It has Vigilance and Menace. Only our Ram actually has Vigilance, but by being able to put this on the Angel, by putting this on the Gate Colossus, those things will become so massive, it'll be impossible for your opponent to stop them. So that's why we'll have 1 copy of it. Mostly it's just for meme purposes, but it actually has helped me out in a pinch many times before. As you kind of know, Guildgates is a very, very slow deck because every land comes in tapped. So that really does hurt our plan. This is why it's essential for us to have copies of Growth Spiral and Circuitous Root to try to speed up the process. This is one of the newest cards I thought actually makes a big difference for gates in 2021. Ominous Seas came out in the Ikoria set, but as you can see right here, you get to put a foreshadow counter on the enchantment itself for every time you draw a card. Once you remove 8 of the counters off of it, you can then create an 8/8 Kraken. Why is this important, you're probably wondering? Well, with Guild Summit, this is now where the Ominous Seas actually becomes really powerful. Guild Summit is one of the reasons why we're using this whole package in the first place. When Guild Summit enters the battlefield, you may tap any number of untapped gates you control. You draw a card for each gate tapped this way. Whenever a gate enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So you see where I'm going with this? Draw a card using Guild Summit. It'll trigger off Ominous Seas, using also the same cards with Growth Spiral and Circuitous Root to keep churning through your deck. And believe it or not, it can sometimes take as many as only a turn and a half to get a Kraken out that fast. Keep this in mind also, you don't have to feel like you need to put out all of these. There's 3 copies in the deck, so as long as you have at least 1, you should be good. And if you need to, they cycle themselves, which can also help you draw cards and trigger off another counter. Keep in mind that also with the way this deck runs, and I've had this problem happen before, I've decked out a couple of times. So the number one way I've been trying to find a fix for this is to put in 1 copy of Clear the Mind. We kind of still have some mill decks running around in the format. Clear the Mind is actually not too bad to have. So good, but we only need 1 copy, just in case. Gates Ablaze will deal X amount of damage to each creature, where X is the number of gates you control. One thing I do want to remind you, of course, is you honestly want to use this before you cast a creature spell. At least this way, you can keep your creatures alive. Usually based on how this scales, cards like the Gatebreaker Ram shouldn't die, even if you have it out before you put out the Gates Ablaze, but cards like Gate Colossus might end up dying. Still, they do manage to bring themselves back, so just as an FYI. And finally, to round out our package, 2 copies of Chemisters Insight. The only reason why we only need 2 is we have a lot of ways of drawing cards as is, but the Chemisters Insight can be utilized twice, so that's why we have 2 copies of it. Draw 2 cards, and its jumpstart ability by maybe discarding an extra copy of Guild Summit helps us refuel our hand just a little bit more. But there you go, guys. That is basically the non-creature package spell that helps us ensure that we can get to victory with our gates. Speaking of them, let's actually talk about those lands. Now, when you're talking a Guildgate deck, obviously your focus is going to be the land base, and this is actually one of the few times we actually really want to go in on this. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you know how Guildgates works, they do come in all tapped, which is going to be a major problem for us. Still, we have 3 basic lands, 2 forests, 1 island, just because of how our mana base is fixed. The reason why we're utilizing what you see right here is this is what I feel is going to be the best ratio for our 4 colors. And to ensure that we can still try to fix our mana a little bit, we're going to be utilizing a couple of Gateway Plaza. Remember again, this is a budget deck, so there are no rares or mythics in it, and that's why we're using it. This does mean though that Gateway Plaza will forcefully have to make us tap one of our lands to ensure that this doesn't sacrifice itself, but if we can time it just right, being able to have this out helps us fix our mana base a lot better in the long run. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys regarding the Guildgates. It really is going to be a slow mana base, a very, very slow mana base. But if you just know how to budget yourself as to what you should put out each turn based upon what your current hand is, you shouldn't still have a problem. Remember, if you're playing a whole match, anticipate what your opponent's going to do for match 2 and adjust accordingly. All right, let's go over the sideboard. Now, as far as our sideboard is concerned, again, we're just using another catch-all option for you, but adjust based upon what the current meta is. More copies of Archway Angel, in case we need to stabilize a little bit more. We are using a new card from Kaldheim, which is Maja. No, I'm not going to pronounce the rest of that because I can't do it. I tried 3 takes on this video. I'm like, forget it. But anyways, Maja here provides a couple things. It allows us to go wide with tokens, and we are a very land-heavy deck, so its trigger goes off a lot. As you see, it says other creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. Ooh, try saying that 5 times fast. Anyways, so this means that every time Maja's trigger goes off, instead of making a 1/1, technically it's actually coming out as a 2/2. So that becomes a very big threat as it goes wide. That's why we have a couple copies in the sideboard. Broken Wings is also in our deck, mainly because this is a budget option for us. We aren't using any rares or mythics, so this is our catch-all for destroying artifacts, enchantments, and creatures with flying. Although technically we do have a couple angels of our own, our opponent probably is going to have much more stronger flying creatures than us. So therefore we need something a little quick, and since we are a land-heavy deck, it should be pretty quick for you to get the mana you need to get Broken Wings working. Some copies of Narset will be utilized here, mainly to prevent our opponent from drawing their cards, and also to help us dig through our deck in case we need to find that one card in a pinch. And finally, Negates. Negates your catch-all counterspell. Some may argue that you want instead Dovin's Veto, but the only reason I want to use Negate instead is you need to make sure that your mana actually can work for this. And since Dovin's Veto specifically needs white and blue mana, you don't always have the white mana you need. So Negate is just going to be the better option here. But aside from that, that's all I got for you guys with the sideboard. Ready for it? I know what you're waiting for. Oh yeah, time to bully Sparky. Time to have a match with Sparky. Okay, here we go. 4 Color Guildgates in 2021. I know, some people are probably thinking I am super crazy still to do this, but okay, I'm gonna prove to you right now, this deck can still do stuff, all right? Okay, let's look at our hand real quick. Okay, so, you got the Gates Blaze to blow away the board. You got Ominous Seas, which will go well with Guild Summit, so maybe we can make some Krakens. All right, let's keep this. Keep in mind, again, when you play Guildgates, it's going to be a very, very slow deck. So I do want to remind everybody that not to freak out if your opponent is starting to get ahead on board. Thankfully, again, our Gates Ablaze is going to scale up with us, so it's just going to take a little time here, guys. Looks like they're going to be throwing some stuff in this. Cool. All right. We got some Gates Ablaze. Awesome. Throw down the Ominous Seas. We'll be able to start building up stuff very soon. I might have to trim this down a little bit because I anticipate this match might take a little while for us. All right, Ilsyn Cariad. They're going to go attacking? Nope, not yet. They're building a board, which is fine. Okay, see? 1 counter. We're climbing. Since the board right now is still pretty light, we can afford to take a turn off just to put another Guildgate down. Draw a card here. Here we go. Starting to get those counters on there. All right. We can do this, guys. You just gotta believe. Just gotta believe. Okay. Board's getting a little bigger now, so I think this might be the turn we want to blow away everything. Ooh, another guild summit. Ooh, that is tempting. That is tempting. Now, okay, let's actually play this practically. I know. This doesn't sound exciting. Gates ablaze. Blows away the board. All right. Another gate down. Draw another card. Oh my goodness, we have all of our guild summits. My only one thing I want to caution you guys on is don't go too greedy with your guild summits. It does look tempting to throw all of them down now, but remember you might deck out. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so in this case, let's see. Well, now that we have control of the board and they only have one card left, I will break my rule I just said. I know, I'm contradicting myself. So let's go ahead and, since we can't really play anything right now, we're just going to tap all of our lands. Draw 2 cards. 2 triggers go off. 7. Boros gate down. All right. And there you go, guys. We have enough now for a Kraken. But look at that. You got your hand refueled. You've got a way to protect the board. All right, Sparky's going to go attacking. That's fine. Crack this. Get a Kraken. You saw what I saw there. Okay. Haha. Oh my gosh, they throw all of our guild summits at us. We don't need all of them, obviously. So let's see. Let's just go big. We're just going to go massive right now. You know what? We're going hard. Hard and deep. Yes, I know what I said. It's not inappropriate. All the card draw. That's the only downside is either this deck goes off and you end up having too many cards in your hand, or the downside is you end up dead before you can actually recover. So just be mindful of that. You know what? Since this demonstration should be over in just a bit, let's go ahead. Let's just finish this up by just maxing out everything we can. Whoo! Look at those triggers. 1. Where's our Gate Colossus? Oh, there it is. There's another one. Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. We're going to pay 1 there. You know what? Let's just do it. Put 1 more down. Draw some more cards. Again, I should feel bad for bullying Sparky, but I don't. Free Gate Colossus. Bam. Crack that because we can. And, you know, all right, we're just going to finish this game. So there you go. Guildgates can still do it, guys. Bam. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. Ready to talk upgrades? Let's talk upgrades. Now, as far as upgrades to your Gates deck, the only thing I want to caution you on is if you're trying to dedicate this deck to becoming better, keep in mind that some of the rares and mythics that we're going to talk about real quick, primarily just the lands, are going to be just so niche that they are only for this deck. So I'm going to try to give you at least some recommendations for cards that at least you can use in other areas. Namely Hydroid Krasis, which is going to be able to replace your Angel because it can provide a good beatdown creature, and also because it'll help you refuel your hand as well as get your life total in a more stable position. The one thing that's nice at least about Hydroid Krasis also is it scales up depending on how much mana you want to cast it for. Klothys is going to be an option for you to put in the sideboard, mainly as a graveyard hate, and also, again, this helps you stabilize with life. Knight of Autumn kind of also is doing a little bit more redundancy with Klothys and Hydroid Krasis in the sense that you can either choose to get life out of it, but also you're using it to either destroy an artifact or enchantment, and if you just need something to beat down the board and finish off an opponent, also putting counters on it is great in a pinch. Yashern right now, because Sacrifice is the #1 deck now, is going to be very critical. So the good news is even if you are just using Yashern for the Gates deck for a meme purpose, it's actually pretty good currently based on that. However, if Sacrifice decks do drop in popularity, Yashern becomes a little less than useful. Mainly also because you're using Gates, you're not using that many basics. So you might have to adjust your mana base if you want this in the sideboard. Golos, it's a good card because it's easy to cast, and also it's going to be able to get you lands, which will help go off with what you need. But just remember that, again, if you're trying to use this for its secondary ability, that might be a little iffy, especially because, again, the current version of this is only using 4 colors, not 5, so you're going to be a little risky trying to find your black mana. Speaking of that, I'm going to jump real quick to Plaza of Harmony, mainly because this would help you fix your mana if you want to use Golos. So Plaza of Harmony and Maze's End, on the one hand, will get you a better fixation of mana, mainly because Plausible Harmony will then be able to come in untapped, unlike your gates, and also will mimic whatever colors you currently have out there. Not to mention that life gain is also pretty good as well. You only want to use Maze's End to honestly have an alternate win con. So only craft this for this deck if you really want an extra win con instead of just trying to beat down your opponent with your creatures. Speaking of that, I'm going to also mention Castle Ardenvale for that reason. If for some reason your opponent continually keeps blowing up your board, Castle Ardenvale at least gives you some way to sink all those gates, all that mana into at least something that can at least provide blockers, and if nothing else, maybe, just maybe you can fill out a bit of the board with some tokens that can try to jank out some wins. But that's otherwise all I've got for you guys in regards to an upgrade for this deck. One more time, I do want to remind you, this is meant to be a fun deck. That's the reason why I didn't want to use any rares or mythics in it. But if you really, really like the deck, just consider these as possible upgrades. That's all I got for you guys. And there you have it. That is 4 Color Guildgates in 2021. So what do you think? Do you think I'm just living in the past by trying to recreate a deck that was already fun but just outdated at this point? I don't know about you guys, but I still think this deck still got it. Maybe my version may not be the most optimized, but this is the version I think can work. And again, if you do want to make a comment about that, again, just leave it below, and I would love to hear from you guys. But aside from that, thanks again for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if I helped you out, you learned something, or at least I entertained you. And until next time, just remember, no matter what you do play in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later.